Hello and welcome to the first part of my PETTER AA1 diesel engine restoration. You'll see from the pictures in a minute, or after the video, that after I took the cylinder head off and took the cylinder off, the piston only had the top 3 rings on, and I was told on the stationary engine forum that that was all they're supposed to have, and the bottom ring was left. Well, the place where the ring goes is just left empty. But the piston and cylinder has been to a local engineer's, and I've got a fresh set of rings. But in there's not 3 rings, there's 4. There's 2 oil scrapers and 2 compression rings. So, well, that's that, isn't it? Apparently, the faster speed engines, the ones fixed to 3000 revs per minute, have just the top 3 rings. But because this one's a variable speed model, you have the extra ring on the bottom to stop the oil at low revs. So I've got the 3 rings, or 4 rings even. So the cylinder's been honed. You can see in the bores, not shining. It's slightly dull. It's honed quite well. The engineer's done a good job. So now I'm going to clean the piston up and fit the rings. Well, that's the piston cleaned up. You can see it's looking a bit tidier now. The top I can't get off is like tarnished in the top, but yeah, it's looking right. So now I'm going to clean the cylinder. Well, because it's been owned, I'm going to wash it with petrol. The engineers washed it with some fluid before, but I'm going to finish it off and make sure it's right. Well, as you can see, the barrel's looking a bit cleaner now. Letting the stuff dry off before I paint it. I've also put the rings on the piston. It says extra ring on the bottom now, so that should stop the oil now. The rings are gapped correctly in the bore, but as you can see now, I've took the back cover off because I want to change the shaft around. As you can see, look, it's on the cam gear at the moment, so it's half speed of it. It runs at half the engine speed. So all I have to do is pop those Allen keys out, put the shaft down there, and bolt it in the crank. Then I have to take that cap out and put it there, and then take the oil seal out of that hole and put it there, and then it's good to go. So that's what I'm going to do now. I may have a little look in there. It looks fairly clean, but I may clean it a bit as well inside. So that's what I'm going to do now. Well, that's the shaft off. The last nut took a hell of a lot to get off because it was creamed right up tight. Now I'm wondering, because there's thread in the side of this camshaft, but there's no bolt there. But on this one there's a bolt. So I'm wondering whether the shaft holds the camshaft pulley in, or the gear in, when he's in the engine. So I'm going to go and look at the manual and see if that has to be swapped to there when you swap the shaft around. It should tell you. So that's what I'm going to do now. As you can see, on this picture, which Make Do Amend sent me, the nut is on the other shaft, on the camshaft, not the crank. So what I'm going to do is take the nut out of the crank and put it in the camshaft, and then put the shaft like that. Well, as you can see from a picture in the manual, the nut is on the crank gear, and the shaft is on the end as well. So slightly puzzling, but I don't think it's going to matter too much because this gear is keyed onto the shaft, and when the shaft extension is bolted on, it isn't going to pull off its key because it can't move out anyway. So I don't think it's going to matter too much. Also, if I just scroll over sideways, there's only 3 rings on this engine and a gap for the 4th. But when I got a set of rings, it come with 4 rings. So that's puzzling as well. But it don't matter anyway, because I'm going to put the 4 rings in. Well, I already have. Well, I come back out here now, and done a few jobs. I've decided to fit a nut and washer in there as well, because when that nut and washer was on there, so the shaft was on the crank, or the cam even, closer looking at the case, there's stamped marks where the nuts that hold the crank extension on have touched the casing, so I'm assuming that the gear has come off its keyway and hit the casing and damaged it. So I've put a nut and washer there to hold that one in now, and when I done that one up, the cam gear pulled in a little bit, so I solved that little problem. I've cleaned the shaft up now, it's looking quite a bit better. Remove the injector pump because I'm going to clean up the casing in a minute, and you see I've cleaned this up, the casing and that side. I've buffed it up with some wire wool, which is quite good. It looks really good actually. And I've sprayed the barrel now. It's in its 2nd coat of barbecue paint. Dropped the oil. You wouldn't think that oil was only done about 10 minutes work. And took the filter out. You see the filter in there. So now I'm going to buff up the casing all I can, and then take it off the trolley and remove the sump and have a look what's in the sump. Well, that's the crankcase all nice and cleaned up now. The fuel pump and that's all been off, well, the shut off and run switch, or stop and run. The throttle's all been took to pieces and cleaned up. It's quite mucky in there. Yeah, that's all sealed in now. You can see this lever, it wasn't working properly before, it was all flapping around. But if you see the taper on the back of the lever, the taper is actually on the inside. And there's a clip here with like a bubble on it, if you can see it, and that one goes up and clips into place to hold into the stop position. So fix that now, put it the way around. The pump's been off, cleaned it all up. Yeah, I've been testing the injector. It might still inject, there's no fuel in it as such. So that's alright. So before I take the sump off and clean that out, I think I'm going to tack the cylinder head. Clean the fins up, clean out basically just give it a really good clean, decarbonise it, and then grind in the valves. So that's what I'm going to do now. Well, that's the cylinder head nearly cleaned up. I've decided to take the sump off now, so that's what's in the sump. Got to clean it all out. You can see it's a bit mucky in there. And that's the sump. There's the oil strainer for the oil pump. I'll clean that out and then put it back together. Well, I've just finished cleaning the cylinder head and give it its first coat of barbecue paint. I think it's looking quite smart. I purposely left the rocker box cover aluminium. I haven't finished it yet because I've got to file off some dents and that for chips. And then I'm going to draw in the PETTER logo on top and then lacquer it to keep it right. So I think that'll look quite good. Yeah, it's looking right now. I've got the sump off, as you can see. I've nearly finished cleaning the sump now. Can't really tell you much about the big end and that. I've been looking for if it's a standard size or not, but it only says 2-253500. And the top above that there's G in a square and D in a square, and after that there's JW. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I can't see a standard size on it anywhere. So this is the end of the first part, and in the second part it should be finished. Thanks for watching. Well, just before I finish this video, I thought I'd show you what I've done to the rocker cover. Cleaned it all up, as you can see, with a wire brush on the drill, and permanent markered the prime and the arrow, and drawed on the PETTER logo. Isn't the best one I've ever done, but I think it will do. The P ain't quite right, but yeah, I think that will do for this one. So thanks for watching.